a little bit lately about how powerful normalizing things are. When we realize that things that we maybe feel guilty about or worried about, we realize that everybody experiences it, and it brings us a lot closer together, I think, when we do that, when we talk about it. And then I was listening to a podcast, and Brené Brown said that the opposite of shaming for our children is normalizing things. And that kind of sums up in a nutshell what the point of these videos are, that there is nothing aspirational about my home ed. This isn't a how-to video, it's just normalizing the kind of normal, sometimes mediocre parts of home ed. And so what I wanted to normalize today was the things that I've given up on, and normalize giving up on things. So I'm going to talk about the things in home ed that I've just stopped doing. So the first thing is morning baskets. Now, one of the tricky things of doing this job is that a lot of the things I'm like, oh, we're doing this, and I might record it on video, and then 2 weeks later think, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, but I've got this like lasting declaration that we're doing it. Morning baskets was one of those things. I love the idea of a morning basket where you like have everything in a lovely basket, and you kind of just pull it out, your kids are all around just enjoying it, and you might read something and then do something else, and then talk about, like, you get like a whole host of things done in one go, and it just seems really relaxed and chilled out, but we just never ever stick to it. I don't know if it's because it gets boring doing the same thing every day, whether sometimes it feels like we're packing too much in, and then also, to be honest, sometimes I just get naggy in it because you're trying to get kids to pay attention in a very similar way, just kind of sitting down for a long chunk of time. So we used to do kind of a simplified version of a breakfast, and that was okay, but even that we just weren't consistent about it. And so I just gave up trying, and all we do now is we have a couple of books that live in the kitchen, and it's normally our like chapter read aloud, and then we might grab a book from our bookshelf as well, like a non-fiction book. And when we have a meal time or a snack time that feels a bit more relaxing, I get it out and I read from it. And that's made it a lot more conducive to having discussions. I don't think I'm going to try and go back to a morning basket thing, because it just doesn't work for us. But yeah, that is one thing that I just gave up, and I'm very glad of it. The thing that I gave up on was some of the curriculums that we've bought. So I've not really bought many curriculums. The very first thing that I ever bought for home ed was Exploring Nature with Children, and we still do that. We've done it for 3 years, and now we're into those rhythms, and we can kind of dip into it when we need to and meander through it a little bit. And so that one, great, we've stuck to that one. I've tried lots of different maths ones, given them up, because to me there's no point continuing something that doesn't bring me joy if I'm doing it with my kids, or my kids joy. But we have got a maths curriculum now that seems to work and is fine. We still have to tweak it a bit for us, but it was the first time this last year that I bought a language arts curriculum. And I just thought, oh, this is going to make me, again, it's that consistency. I wanted something that would make me consistent, because I loved planning, like our read alouds and the things that we would do around books and so on. But that at the end of the day, I might plan brilliantly for 2 weeks and then not have the capacity to do it for another 2 weeks. And so then things just kind of just didn't happen. So I thought I would get a curriculum, and we got a lovely curriculum. But again, we just, after a few weeks, it just was very samey each day, and we gave that up. But this is one that I haven't given up because I don't like it. I think it's one that we'll kind of dip into and split it up between our own things. And I do like that about home ed, that I shouldn't feel guilty, even if I do sometimes, of giving things up, because we might go back to it. We have a history one that we did for a little while that we'll probably go back to when my other younger kids are a bit older. So I'm trying not to see it as a failure, because that's what it can sometimes feel like, because it's like an intentional decision that we've given it up. Not all of the things that I give up are intentional, but this one was, and it seems to have worked well for us too. One thing that I'm a little sad when we give up on is when I plan topics, especially a lot of the Twinkl topics. They're brilliant, amazing, and I get really excited about them. And sometimes I might even spend a lot of time gathering ideas, and then we just don't do it, or we do one of the kind of activities and then we don't do it, and it's not necessarily intentionally given up, it just doesn't happen again. And that's something that I do feel disappointed sometimes, because I think you think about the kind of home ed parent that you want to be. And one of the home ed parents that I'd like to be, there's a few different conflicting types that I'd want to be, but one is like having the beautiful setup and like we're all doing about rainforests and having it, all the activities and the crafts and the books leading into it and maths coming out from it and all that kind of stuff, and doing a trip that's linked to it. Like I would love to do that, but I can't sustain it this season in my life, and so that's definitely something that I've given up. I'm going to let them walk past. It always feel awkward. Come on. One thing I gave up on that was more that it was just easier to give up on rather than I thought it was the right thing to do is I've given up quite a few hour restrictions on screen time. We used to have fairly set times that we would watch it, and I wouldn't want them watching TV when they first woke up in the morning, but we moved house and then neighbours didn't want us to be too noisy in the mornings and my kids early risers, so I like switched their TV time to the morning, and then I found that that was a great time for me to get my work done. And then because my husband and I both work from home and we have meetings and like I do the live interviews, sometimes I just need the kids to be quiet, so I do use it as a tool for that. But I've also found that they're learning so much from different things. They'll come out with stuff that I know that I haven't taught them and that I don't know about, and they're taking the lead on some of that because of how TV shows or apps have inspired them. And thinking back to what I watched when I was a kid, I loved Thundercats, brilliant show, but everything was pretty much like that, and there was no real choice or intention when you turned on the TV. It was just what was on the 4 channels that we had. So I'm trying to not feel guilty about this because I don't think screens are terrible, and also when we talk about screen time now, it's very different from like when I was a kid or even when I was a teacher. So yeah, streaming services I don't think existed very much when I was a teacher. That makes me feel really old. So yeah, I gave up some of the restrictions that I had. It just kind of happened. There wasn't really any intention about it, and that's something that I do want to be more intentional about. So it might mean that we have less screen time. It might mean that this is something that is just that they can choose when we're home if they want to do that. And we do have a lot of outside time, so I'm not particularly worried. But I just thought I saw a rat and I didn't. It was a stick, a big stick with a little stick for a tail. So yeah, there are some things that I've given up on, and I think it's okay. And I just thought it would be an interesting thing to talk about. What are things that we've given up on, and why did we give up on them, and normalize it. Like normalize just throwing in the towel. Sometimes that is perfectly fine and exactly the right thing that you should do. But let me know what you might have given up on, or maybe how you tackle screen time in your house. I would be really interested how you, with home education, how you tackle it, because it's probably different than if our kids go to school. But I will see you soon. I hope you enjoy my ramblings, and yeah, let me know your thoughts too. See you later.